Should I wear the glasses? It's okay. Hi and welcome to a new episode of the Yarnflakes Podcast. My name is Audrey and this is a podcast mainly about knitting, but also weaving, cross-stitching, any kind of yarning from the southwest of France. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I haven't podcasted in a couple of weeks, so I have lots to share with you. And yes, I wanted to quickly thank you for how you all said really nice things about my latest video, my first project focus that I uploaded a couple of weeks ago. And yes, I really enjoyed doing it, and I am already starting to slowly film a second one, so it will come back in hopefully just a month or so. And this lighting is not going to cut it. Ooh. Yeah. Basically, I had so much fun editing that video that I got inspired to change a little bit the format of the podcast as well. And that is why you will notice if you're regular viewers that a few things have changed. It's not possible. Just a minute. Now it's dark, but at least it's evenly dark. Yes. I basically want to change up the things a bit for the format of the podcast. Just make some little introductions for the different segments. So yes, I thought it was about time after 40 plus episodes that I finally make this space a little bit more personal and yes, just make it a little bit more creative video wise as well. So I hope you like it. Do tell me what you think should be improved or changed, and yes, there will be a little bit of music during the introduction things, but I will level it with my voice. Do tell me if I didn't do it quite right. But yes, that's how it's going to be. So this week I have lots of knitting to share. 3 finished objects, a new cast on, and I also want to talk about yarns and fibers and woolly stuff. I will also have some cross stitch and my newly named Read and See segment where I will talk about a book I've been reading. Timestamps to all the different sections are in the description down below, so feel free to jump anything if you're not interested, and there will also be links to everything that I talk about as well as my social media tags and things. So knitting, I am obviously wearing a finished object, but I will talk about it last, save the best for the last. I have 2 other finished objects though, and they're things that you haven't seen before. 2 little things that I managed to cast on and finished in the last couple of weeks. First is these. These are the How I Roll socks by Mara Catherine Bayer, Orange Knits. So I just wanted to, well, basically, you know, I'm weaving a scrappy wrap thingy, and I needed the scraps from those yarns, but I knew I wanted to make those socks with them first, so I made them, and then, so now I can use them for my weaving project as well. Those are shorty socks with a little rolled cuff, which I really like, even though it's quite hard to, if you make a short ankle socks with the rib, it stays better on my ankle than if I make a rolled one, so it's harder to determine how long I need the cuff to be, so that it actually doesn't end up rolling on my heel, which is uncomfortable. But yes, those are a fading technique, the orange knit fading technique, similar to the one that she has in her saturate shawl. And it's just a random way of mixing colors. And what I did is that I obviously picked up yarns that were all blue. So rather than having a progression, I just have a really nice blending of the different shades. And if I show you just the shawl in stockinette, you will have a better idea of that. The colors are accurate, just darker, but yeah. And at the front there's this really cool texture pattern. It's really interesting. It's easy to work. It's just knit one billows arranged in a certain way, and it's funny because when you look at it, it's still the stockinette V's, and I can't quite tell what's making it look like this. Maybe it's because some of them are deeper than other. It's just a really cool texture, and I think it works so well with speckled and variegated yarns. I'm wondering if there's a sweater pattern with this texture all over. Will make it super easy, and it will look absolutely beautiful in hand-dyed speckled yarns. Yeah, so I used 3 colors. Yeah, the fade instructions that Orange Knit gives is you can make it with however many colors you want. Basically, she gives examples for 3 colors, and then you can elongate the different sections. Basically, you fade in 3 different sections, and you can choose to make them longer if you have fewer colors, or yeah, to make the minimum if you want to do a lot of colors. I had 3 colors, and what I did is that I followed exactly the number of rows that she gives in her technique, so the basic one. And what I did is that I repeated color A for the cuff and for the toe. So, not sure I'm making myself clear here. I basically did A, B, C, A. And I managed to get the perfect length for my foot. And that's quite nice. So, the colors I have here at the top you can see, and on the toe you can see Reef Dive by Amy of Stranded Dye Works, which I made the driftwood socks out of, which is a pattern by Mina Phillip. Then I blended in with Northern Lights by Stroll. It's a Stroll Handpainted by Knit Picks, and it's on the heel flap and heel turn alone, which I use in my Gather Shawl by Andrea Almari. And then you can see the more purpley and ochre bits. Ochre? How do you say ochre? Is Windflowers by Yarn Baby, and I made simple socks, simple vanilla socks. This was my second vanilla socks that I made toe up, and are way too big, but they're comfy. And the color is absolutely beautiful. Yeah, it's the more lilac-y bits that you can see. And it was quite fun using, because all of them are yarns that I have used a long time ago for my earlier knitting projects of last year. And so it was quite fun reusing old yarns and mixing them, and it felt like it made a new color. And they're fun and comfy. Second unexpected finished object. You know when I'm doing that I'm putting on mittens. I have finally, a year after, made my first Selbu mittens, which I made the patterns that Ellie from Snaeldan released. Ta-da! So you now have a club from Ellie of Snaeldan with 5 different patterns total, and it's really cool. They're all DK weight Norwegian mittens with a little pointy thing here. And yes, and these are the original one, the Salbo mittens. And this is them. I made this in 2 days. It's really super quick to do because obviously it's decay weight, and you just, you start the cuff, then you made the cuff and you're like, oh cool, I can start the star and the thumb gusset, and then you're done with the thumb gusset, and when you're done with the thumb gusset, you've knitted for 1 hour up here, and then you just have this to do. So it's just really cool. So it's these 2 stars, obviously, and the cuff has a little bit of a flowery thing going on as well. The palm is this squared stuff. You have the 2 typical lines that break palm and front, and you have the little thumb, which is color worked on both sides as well. They're really nice and comfy. I am not super happy with my color work on these because they're decay, and I've mostly done color work in fingering weight, so I've gotten better at it. Plus, it's easier to have an even tension if everything is tight and small. See what I mean? It's easier to be even tight than to be even when you have something bigger and looser. But I made the right one second, and it's a little bit better because if you look at this one, it doesn't show when I'm, yeah, you can see here. Look at that. Ugh. Supposed to be a line of red here. It's not working. It's a little bit better on these ones, on the right one that I made second. Almost made the 2 left ones. Almost. And yeah, even on the palm, which is a super even motif, it's not really great. And I'm not even talking about these lines here, which are just looking awful, especially at the top. But I plan on making the flora ones from the club next, which are a more flowery motif, and yeah, hopefully I will notice a difference between the color work quality of the 2. And now it's just too dark. Let me just put it back. Yes, I plan on making the flora ones. So I will see if I can get better at decay weight color work. We'll see. I need the magic loop because I don't have a lot of options of small circulars. Plus they kind of crank my hands. So I want to improve doing magic loop color work. And I did what one of you suggested last time that I made color work mittens, is that I kept shifting the point where I was doing magic loop, which made it a bit fiddly, especially at the thumb. The thumb was awful because I kept putting one stitch back and on the other needle and stuff, and I spend more times managing cables than actually knitting. But DPNs would just make it more for me. I like DPNs, I like them for socks, but for color work, just think I'll have 4 needles and 2 or 3 strands of yarn, and that's it, no. And like I said, I don't really want to buy all the different sizes in small circulars because it's kind of a budget. But yeah, yes, I really like them. The pattern is great. I now feel like I can just look at the chart for a mitten and knit it. Just even if the instructions are in Norwegian or Russian, as it always happens, or if they're badly translated, like certain Latvian mittens that I really want to do. I have a Latvian mitten pattern, which the instructions aren't so great, but the pattern is beautiful. And now that I've made this, I feel really confident that I can knit a mitten just from the chart and figure out, how the thumb is done, if it's a gusset like this one, or if it's just an afterthought thumb. Yeah. One thing that I am not so sure about is how the mittens end. Kind of looks like, my boyfriend said it because I did that, you know, and it made him think of the Demogorgon. Kind of true. It's because you close the mittens by pulling the thread in the remaining stitches and pulling it tight to close the hole. I would try to Kitchener the next ones. I will try, and if I find that it looks bad, it doesn't look pointy enough, maybe I can make another set of decreases and graph those. We'll see. But yeah, I'm really happy with those. The yarn I use, it's not ideal, but it works. It's the same yarn that I use from my Marius cardigan, you know, the one that looks like it's Christmas. Those kind of look like it's Christmas too. Yeah. It's Wool but Söcke, which is a German sport DK yarn. It has 130 grams to 130 meters to 50 grams. So technically, lengthwise, it's a sport weight, but it knits up to a really good DK gauge, and it's yeah, it catches to each other. It has grip, even though I do think it's superwash, but it has grip, so it's good enough. Not as perfect as this. It's gripping enough, but you can still kind of see that the stitches are well defined, and if I stretch it, you can, you know, it does that thing when you have a yarn that's superwash worsted span with a really good stitch definition, and you stretch it in color work. You see what it does? You can see the inside, and you can see the V spreading a bit more. It's because it doesn't make as much of a consistent fabric as, well, other kinds of yarn that are recommended for color work. But it still looks nice, and they're soft. Soft enough for me to wear on my hands. Find it funny enough, my hands must be the most sensitive part of my body. So yeah, really happy with those. I am participating in Ellie's year-long knit-along, which is a knit-along that she's doing and have per goal to knit at least six pairs of colorwork mittens throughout the year, and these are my second ones. And so my plan is to make the Flora ones, maybe not next, maybe I'll do the Latvian ones first, because I want to go complicated, because I want to make a like a peacoat cuff and a Latvian braid, which I have never done, and I really want to try doing a Latvian braid, even though I've heard people say that it was, but I'm gonna find tutorials online and it's gonna be fine. And yeah, and then I have a couple of other really nice mitten patterns that I want to do. I'm really enjoying making these super quick, like I said, 2 days, and you'll see that I'm in the middle of really long knits that are quite repetitive, so this was really satisfying to whip out in 2 days and have a finished object. So I'm gonna go on to whips for a little bit. I have been working a lot on my Susu sweater, which is a pattern by Nougat, and it's this beautiful, nicely shaped sweater. And I have done the back. So this is the back completed. I'm sorry it was folded, so it looks a bit eh. So it's double moss stitch, a lacy whip, and these beautiful cables with twisted stitches. It's interesting because they're not fully twisted. That is, you twist them when you knit them, but when you come back on the wrong side, you purl them the normal way. So it makes them half twisted. See these lines? And it does look different, maybe plumper, because they're not super tight, you know, when you twist them consistently. And it looks so beautiful. So beautiful. I am knitting it out of Drops Lima, which I had in my stash forever, in the beige colorway. And you know, I really like Drops Lima for DK weight textured garments because it's drapey because of the alpaca content. It has 35% alpaca and it has a nice and nice bouncy texture because of the 65% wool. It's grippy, but it still has a great stitch definition and I really like it. This is the beige colorway, the simple beige. And yes, so I've done the back, I've done that shaping and bind off. As you can see, these look horrendous. So I can't wait to sew the two pieces together because this just doesn't look good. It's not pleasing to look at. But it's going to be so satisfying when and if I manage to sew everything together and it looks super neat. It has to, right? I'm getting close though, as I have started the front. And this has 2 balls of yarns attached, so it's a little bit of a mess. And not enjoying that as much as I hoped because the shaping. So the front is shorter. It's supposed to be like this, I think. I hope, because I don't want it to be like in my belly button. And the front has a bias shaping, so you basically make it so that you decrease here, you increase in the center, which has that extra eyelet row, so you have 3. Can you see it? You have 3 eyelets going on here. And so it makes it so that it's kind of chevron shape. The center is higher than the side that are going to be dropping. So this was okay. And then I started doing the neck shaping. So I cast off a couple of stitches at the center and then I'm doing the decreases to neck. One, the instructions aren't amazing. You kind of don't know what you're supposed to be doing with the yarn overs at some point. But I winged it and I got the right stitch count, so I think it's okay. If I can wing it and be right, it's okay. It's raining now. March everyone. Sun and rain. Feels like Ireland, where I literally got a sunburn the same day and a cold. I love Ireland. What was I saying? Yes. The other reason why I'm not so enthusiastic about it is that it's so slow. The decreases are very spaced and it just feels like forever. I mean, you have like 60, you have more rows here, and I'm not done yet. You have more row starting here to here than the actual cable-y bit at the bottom. It just feels very long. And I'm kind of scared that it's going to fall too down. See, I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be like, yeah, here. Here would be a good idea. And I think I'm okay because I only have a few rows more and I believe that then you graft the front and the back. I hope so. But then I will have to do the sleeves, pick up for the sleeves, because you sew front and back and then you pick up the side for the sleeves and then you sew the underarm of the sleeve, I think. Yes. But it's going to be so beautiful and so wearable over a dress or a nice shirt if it falls nicely, which is what stresses me out, and I guess it doesn't help. But you know, I'm not the type to let something languish, so I guess it's fine, and I will hopefully have it done soon because I have too many stuff to do. And having 3 sweaters on the go is not a good idea. After all, it's not a good idea. Yes, besides complaining, there's something I really like. It's this. It's the button. What will be the hem? I think it's really nice. So it takes advantage of the fact that when you do a long tail cast on, you know, it's right facing way of mounting the stitches. So when you turn, you're working on the wrong side and you have the little bumps of pearls, so to say. And on this pattern, this wrong side actually ends up being the right side. And then you work a few reverse stockinette rows. And so this is the wrong side of the cast on. And so it looks like it's rolling inside. And while on that side you have, see, this should have been the right side of the long tail cast on. But the way it works is that, yeah, you end up with having the wrong side being the right side, and it makes it really smooth, like a nice little rolled hem, which I think looks really nice. And yeah, I would like incorporating that maybe on cups. Can be an idea. Yeah. I cast on my Zweig. Finally, I've been wanting to make it for a long time now. I just couldn't figure out the right color combination. I had dyed, let me grab them. I have dyed these chocolate brown, which are really nice. And I wasn't sure about wearing brown, having brown hair, but it actually looks quite flattering. Which makes sense, but you know. And yeah, I have this, which is Marshmallow by Knit Cosmic Strings, and it's just perfect. It's perfect, and it's this creamy base with pink and purple speckles. But I don't know, I kind of wanted to hoard it and maybe make socks, but it's ridiculous. If I love it so much, it makes sense that it's in a sweater, especially in Zweig, which would make it so beautiful. And yeah, I kept wanting to go for colors that were too variegated or that looked muddy. In the end, I decided to stop being ridiculous and make it with this. And this is what I have. Let me show you the front. This is what I have. It's not much, but yes, I'm knitting the small size. I thought I would knit the medium size, but it ended up being way too big, I think, the measurements. Now I'm kind of concerned that it's actually too small. I really want to try it on, so I must get into the sleeve separations and put it on, because I'm also a bit concerned that the neck bit, the stockinette neck bit, is going to look wonky and bulge, because afterwards there's color work. Even though it's not tight, I did it fairly decently, I think. Kind of afraid that it's going to make a bump here instead of staying flat. I don't know. I'm not enjoying it as much as I thought I would. I don't know. I'm in the mood, guys. I'm just in the mood. I'm doing the lace yoke and it's not going super fast. It's really easy. Maybe that's why. I thought I would like zoom through the thing and have the body and the sleeve separated in 2 days. Yeah, I guess that's kind of unrealistic considering I have so many whips. And don't forget I have my massive blanket that I'm still working on, and I'm not showing you because it's just, you know, it's just a blanket. But yeah, you have this colorwork bit, and then you do the yoke, and then you have another colorwork bit. And yeah, I think once I finish my susu, I'm going to enjoy this much more. And yeah, I can't wait to try it on, because I want it to be roomy, and I'm afraid it won't, even though I'm using superwash merino, so I will have some leverage at the blocking. But yes, indeed I made the right choice color-wise. It's going to look really nice, and that lace is going to pop. I think this lace just takes a little while to actually make the motif, so that's why I'm a little bit... I like lace knitting, not as much as cables, but I kind of need to see it becoming the motif that it's going to be, which never really happens because lace needs to be blocked to actually look decent. So I guess that's why I'm a bit... After doing so many cables that instantly look gorgeous, that's why the lace is a bit... so I think I will really love the body of this. It has a cross cable-y texture thing all over the body and sleeves, so I can't wait to get to that. And I know this will be a beautiful sweater, if only it fits right. I did Japanese short rows for the first time. I found that I like doing German short rows for a sweater because they show okay on stockinette, but the Japanese ones, oh my god, they're the best looking ones I have done for a stockinette. So that's one side, and that's the other. You can see the fabric puckering a little bit, but it's not even blocked. And it just looks so good. I'm really impressed. So I will link below to Isolda's tutorial on Japanese short rows, because she gives the right way of resolving them for a sweater. Because the problem is all the tutorials that I found were only working it flat, but you have to work them differently when you have made a gap on the wrong side and then you come back in the round, so you have to close the gap knitwise. And if you don't know the proper way of doing it, well, you're gonna have a hole and it's going to look awful. And Isolda does write on her blog post how to do it. You basically have to slip it and rearrange it a little bit, and it works really nice, and I'm really happy with how it looks. And I'm really pleased that I found the correct way of doing it. And yeah, Japanese short rows are the thing. Basically, you use the working yarn as a wrap. Instead of wrapping the stitch, you use the working yarn that connects two stitches, and you knit it together with the stitch after the gap. And it works really well, and I think I'm going to use that for all my sweaters that require short row shaping. Now, yeah, I'm wearing my Windfell sweater, and I finished it. After I podcasted last time, I just went on a mission to finish this, and I finished it in 3 days afterward, all the sleeves and the body, and I'm still happy with it. It's really nice. So let me get up to show you how it is. So you have color work at the bottom, color work at the bottom of the sleeves, and yeah, that's how it is. And you have obviously this really beautiful color work yoke. So this is a pattern by Jennifer Steingas, which is published in Woods by Making Stories. I cord edging here. I love it so much. I changed the construction of it. So one last time I'm going to go through what I did, and if you need to reference it later, I wrote everything on my Ravelry project page, so you can look it up and you will see how I worked that sweater top down instead of bottom up, because let's be honest, bottom up plain stockinette one color sweaters is a no. And I decided to work the yoke first and then work downwards. So what I did is I cast on the total number of stitches here basically I looked in the pattern where it said after joining the body and sleeves what was the total amount of stitches for that. I cast on that with scrap yarn. You can provisionally cast on however you want. With the crochet method, for example, I was using a very thin yarn, which I'll talk about in a bit. So I preferred to cast on with scrap yarn, knit a few rows, then join my main collar. Then I worked the yoke upwards, and this allowed me to have decreases like in the original pattern and not increases, which, you know, sometimes might look a bit different. And I didn't want to fuss trying to figure out what symmetrical increases and stuff. Plus it was really fun going smaller and smaller and smaller. So I worked the yoke, I did the icon bind off, which I already mentioned in my previous episode that I'm not super pleased with it. It does look very good now that it's blocked. It's not perfect, but it's okay. Then I picked up the first row of my main collar that I did here, and then I worked downwards. So I worked the body downwards, and I worked the sleeves downwards, making decreases like I usually do to have a fitted sleeves. I gave numbers. The way I did it, it might not suit you, but they're close to the original pattern ones. So I just ended up with more stitches, I think, at the cuff. I'm not sure, but no, the cuffs are good. And I just had to make sure that I had a multiple of 8 or 6, whatever number of stitches that chart was for the cuffs and for the hem. Just made sure that I had the right number, and I decreased like 1 or 2 stitches at the bottom here as well, just so that I get the right number. This was really satisfying to do. It flew by. Like I said, it actually took me longer to knit the yoke than to knit all of it, which is incredible. Because once I had this done, I was just so eager to have it finished, and it was so much nicer to knit the sleeves and body top down. Really, it's just something I much prefer. I understand the purse of bottom up, especially if you're doing something textured or completely color worked, but when it's like that, I don't think it's necessary. Yeah, I don't know if it's easier to design. I don't know. I feel like it's easier to design top down, so. However, I think it's a shaping thing, because they're short rows a bit everywhere on the back, so maybe that's why, even though the original pattern has waist shaping. And I never really understand how you can make waist shaping from the bottom up, because, you know, if you follow them, even if your raw gauge is correct, you know, your body isn't exactly the same one as the measurements given. So you start at the bottom, you're like, okay, I'm gonna start the waist shaping now. And then you realize that the yoke is actually that long, so oops, my waist is not at the right place. Anyway. So I didn't do the waist shaping on that. I just went straight, because it's fitted anyway. So, well, fitted. It's not fitted, but you know. And so the original pattern has a short row shaping before you join body and sleeves, after you join body and sleeves, and at the very neck. I only did the one in the yoke. So basically, after I provisionally cast on, I did a set of short rows. I did the one at the neck. I just didn't do the short rows at the back. And they're not really necessary. I'm not missing, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here, but I'm not missing anything. At the neck right now, it goes quite high. The neckline is close to my neck, so it's fine. And I really like it. It's really popping, and it's really beautiful. And I used Holst Supersoft in Nougat. Elderberry and red clover. And it was my first time making a garment out of Holst Supersoft. I am so happy, and I just love this yarn, guys. It's just so perfect for anything, really, because it's great for color work, but it works as well. I've seen people's projects on Ravelry using it for texture stitches, and it looks really nice too. And I'm just wearing a small straps thing, so it's on my arms, it's on my neck, and it's not itchy. Then again, we all have different sensibilities, but really it is soft to me, and the transformation when it blocked was just so satisfying. So this yarn is full of spinning oil, and so when you knit it, it feels a bit dry, it feels a bit webby. And when you know, I've got into this yarn because I was watching Ellie's from Snaeldan's podcast, and she kept talking about it. So and I was like, oh my god, this yarn is so affordable. On top of everything, of all the nice things that Ellie has been saying about this yarn, it's super affordable. And so when she says that the blocking of it is magical, she is totally right. I put it in water, and the water became grayish, you know, because of the spinning oil. So I did 2 washes to get as much of it out as possible, and it's just completely different fabric, and such a perfect cohesive one for color work. It's just so smooth. You remember how when I stretched my mittens it looked weird? Well, if I do this now, that's not happening. Nothing's happening. It's perfect. And yeah, I'm just enjoying it so much, and I want to take this opportunity to tell people about woolly yarns, and encourage anyone to please try woolly yarns. Of course, we all have different sensitivities, and if it is a sensitive issue for you, then by all means, I mean, you can enjoy all the super soft merino, the super wash yarns, and the cotton and linen blends that we have that are all amazing. Like, you know, I can't deal with Lopi yarn, except in the hat that stays on my hair. I would love to have a garment out of Lopi yarn, but I would probably need to have 2 long sleeves roll necks shirts under it. Yes, even after washing the Lopi yarn. And yeah, I just don't live in Alaska, so I don't really need that. But who knows, you know, if I end up in a country that's very, very cold, maybe I will be able to make Lopi garments. So I do have limits, and I do feel the itch for certain yarns as well. What I want to say is that I'm afraid that people actually just never consider trying other types of yarn, because they would have a reputation, and quite often wrongly, to be scratchy and super dry and rustic. Yeah, I feel there's a proportion of knitters who feel like you learn with acrylic, but then the real deal is only the super soft merino hand-dyed yarns at 25 euros a skein. This is coming because I hang around on Reddit knitting a lot, and every other week or so there will be someone starting a thread asking, how do you guys knit? I cannot afford Madeleine Tosh. And it just makes me so sad, because I want to shout at them, no, come back. You can knit with other yarns, and it's not going to ruin you. And other kind of yarns are sometimes very appropriate for the project that you're making. So you have so many possibilities. But even going beyond the accessibility and cost aspect of it, just please try woolly yarns, different yarns than what you're used to, that what you think is the real thing when you're just starting up knitting. There are so much opportunities, so many properties to take into account and to even just consider when you're starting a project. I just feel it's a shame if you always go with superwash merino out of habit and not because you choose to. And there are so many options that you are bound to get surprised. You can knit anything with any yarn. You saw my Zweig, Caitlin Anter's sweater patterns. They work so brilliantly with associating colorwork and those hand-dyed variegated yarns that are often superwash merino. Then you have the MCN bases for Supersoft, self-striping yarns, the single ply that takes colors so well for shawls. You know, but then you can try maybe a bit of BFL for a sock, a lambswool, a woolen span lambswool for colorwork, you know, a durable, crisp yarn for a texture garment that will be there forever with you. You know, a tender alpaca for an accessory and drape. It just broadens your spectrum if you start looking at fibers and at what the yarn is actually made of. Which is why I'm kind of happy when I see trendy indie dyers having interesting bases, like I know of Is Etc. and Hey Mama Wolf, for example. If you have any other, please give the links. And yeah, even just a bit of Polwarth or Corrydale, it just adds a little bit more, and it makes you think, oh, what is this wool? I never looked at it. How is it like? How is it going to work in this type of yarn? What's it going to do? You know, let me take the topic as an excuse to show some little gems I have. And I can start nicely with merino and silk blends. Yes, these are merino. This is Black Elephant. This is Maison Corlène, upside down. Maison Corlène, which is a French indie dyer. Oh my god, that color. And there's merino in it and silk, but look at how they're made. They're tightly twist yarns. So you know you have a stronger yarn around a yarn that's going to have a really crisp definition because of the twists. This is Tusken knits, and it is a really interesting base. It's 20% kid mohair, 25% nylon, 55% superwash merino. There's mohair, which is magic. It's really strong, so this is a really great sock yarn. BFL, this is Exmoor sock yarn. BFL is, I think, maybe the more accessible type of wool if you're only used to superwash merino, because it's soft. It has a really interesting sheen. It's like it's shiny, but it's matte shiny. You know what I mean? And it's just so strong for socks and garments. Tukuwool is another strong woolly yarn. This is their simple fingering, Tukuwool fingering, but you can, I think that they have a sock yarn. And it just have a bit more character that makes it interesting for texture. This will look so different in a superwash merino yarn, and both are interesting, but you know, why wouldn't you try this one? Let me get into the Rerum Natura woolen span amazingness. This is Gilliatt, it's their worsted weight, and ho, it's merino, but it's French and Portuguese merino. It's the same breed as all the really nice soft merino that we know of, but it doesn't have the same results. I think this is what you gain when you take interest into the fibers you're working with, and you don't take a chance of being disappointed. You know, you order merino and you get this. I mean, this is soft. This is soft, but you know, it's not superwash merino hand-dyed soft. Softness is determined by the micron count of a fiber, basically how fine it is, and not necessarily the breed. So yeah, it's good to know. Learning to knit, I think, should go ideally with learning about the materials you're using. And this is a woolly material. It's woolen spun, which makes it light and airy and fluffy and great. It's not even on the rustic aspect of thing. Yeah, if you want to say that this is rustic, maybe we need another word for Shetland yarns and loopy. Something like hell. But, you know. Holst, Supersoft. Okay, maybe the name It's not quite there, even though it is soft, and you really have to try and wash it like any type of wool, especially the rustic yarn. Just wash them and see how it is afterwards. And it feels dry and awkward because of the spinning oil at first, but it's a fabulous yarn that just works so well. And if you're beginning with color work, just try it like this because it's so forgiving. Holst also have other types of yarn. This is Tides, which has silk. It's 70% wool, 30% silk, and it's a bit softer and rounder. So maybe that's an option. And if really it isn't, Coast, 50% wool, 50% cotton. That doesn't age at all, and it has an amazing meterage. It's super light, and you can knit it double. You can, yeah, these are options. If this is a bit too much, well, the cotton version might be the right thing for you. Same idea with Bûches lambswool, which has the most gorgeous heathered palette. Their colorways are amazing. I just want sweaters in all of their colors. This is Le Petit lambswool, so it's their fingering weight, and it's very comparable to Holst Supersoft. It's woolly. Maybe it has less stitch definition because it has slightly more halo, I feel. But yeah, this is a very interesting yarn. But there's one lately that has my heart, and I really recommend that you try this one. If you've ever only knit with superwash merino and you feel like you want to try something else, this is Snaeldan yarns. This is the light brown and dyed shade, and this is yarn from the Faroe. I learned how to say it. I asked someone. From the Faroe Islands, and it's a blend of Faroe sheep, which is a bit on the rustic side. If you don't know, the Faroe Islands are way up there, upper than Shetland, and it's a really rustic sheep, and they blended it with Falkland, which, if I am not mistaken, is a descendant, like it's a crossbreed with merino. It has like 7/8 of merino. I'm not sure exactly, but it's super soft. And so the blend of them really makes a yarn that is soft and that has a really good stitch definition and still a really nice woolly feel to it. And I have a swatch here because this is what I'm making my next project focus sweater out of. I have a swatch. Am I showing you the, yeah. This has been washed and it's soft, and look at the fabric it made. It has a little tiny halo, not so much. It will not alter the stitch definition whatsoever. And it just makes a really nice cohesive fabric that is maybe not neckwear, but definitely next to skin otherwise. And this will be a cardigan. And I really, really like this. They come in a lot of really sweet undyed shades. There are 2 browns, gazillion greys, and obviously a cream. They're super affordable. This is the fingering weight. They have a lace weight, I think. I think they have a lace weight. I think this is not the thinner one. But they do have decay and... no, decay worsted, and they have a big one. They have 2-ply, 3-ply, 5-ply. That's what they call it. But yeah, this has 360 meters to 100 grams. It's a fingering weight, and it's €9 on a French website called L'Indésil, which I believe ship worldwide, but if you look for Snaeldan yarns, you should find retailers, no problem. And this is an amazing yarn. It's nowhere near as rustic as Shetland or really horse yarns. But yeah, I hope that there's been a few designs that came up with it recently by Isabel Kremer, by Melody Hoffman, and I really hope that this will encourage people to try this yarn because it's a great one. Why am I going on that rant? I love to knit and design, and a huge part of that love has to do with the fibers, the yarns I'm using. You know, what can I pick for that project? What yarn content, what construction of the thread will give me the best result? Not necessarily the best result, you know, just the result I want for this. I may not want my colorwork to be like this. Sometimes I want my colorwork to be like on my twig. But I want to make an informed choice. And if I only knit with superwash merino, then I wouldn't have all the other options. I feel there are two extremes, only considering superwash merino and looking down on it in favor of only real woolly rustic yarns. And both are quite sad, I feel. I just don't want anyone to miss out on enjoyment because they didn't try different options. That's how I feel. And please don't say your yarn is bad because it's not soft. Wool quality is not exclusively dependent on its softness, and soft wool may actually imply weaknesses like pilling. A wool that you find itchy, it just didn't suit you, but it's not bad because of it. It's not necessarily meant to be soft. It's just so much more than that. That's my rant done. You can move on to the next segment of the podcast. I have done some cross stitch. If you remember, you probably don't because that was so long ago. When I started cross stitch, I bought like 3 patterns in one go. And I made 2 of them. And the last one was a hokusai type wave with the Japanese kind of vibe. And I really want to make this, but I didn't start on this one because I didn't want to fuss with the blending of the colors, and I wanted something a bit more straightforward and minimalistic. So I decided to start on the series of the geometric patterns that I got from charts and stuff on Etsy. And I started one, and I decided to, so it's a really geometric, a little bit optical illusion kind of thing that I'm only going to do in black. So it's going to be really black and white thing. And it's just, this one is a square, so I decided to do the outline first. I'm gonna go like in, can you say concentric for squares? I don't think so. But yeah, I'm going to try to go to the center, which was a bit fiddly because I had to find the center of my fabric and then count to get to the corner. But I think this way I'm less likely to mess up. But yeah, these are just black tiny stitches. I have to use a hoop for the, oh my god, yeah. My hoop is not big enough to contain the entire square, and so it's the first time I'm gonna have that problem, so to say. And I really hope that once I'm all done, and I am going to wash and iron gently the thing, I really hope I'm not going to have wrinkle and creases. I'm obviously not letting it in the hoop when I'm not stitching it, and I'm not stitching for long periods at a time. So yeah, I really hope that I will have something that looks good. If I really stretch it. Will it look flat? Please, no creases. So if you have tips on how to get out those hoop creases once you're done with the stitching, besides washing and ironing it through another piece of cloth, just do tell me. Like if I really stretch it, it's okay, you see? Maybe when I will actually be mounting that thing, it'll be, you can still see that one here. But yeah, it's relaxing, it's really nice. I can't wait to have my square finished so that I can actually start inside. So there's stitching and then there's a lot of outlining. And yeah, that's how the back is looking. You know, nothing incredible, it's quite repetitive, so it's fine so far. But yeah, I'm enjoying doing that. I don't know, I felt like having black and white stuff, and so there's 3 of them and I'll be making them slowly. It's actually taking me not as long as I feared it would. Well, I'm saying that and I barely have, I don't even have it, the outline yet, but I'm not doing it that much. So I feel if I dedicate myself to it, I could have it done faster than I thought I would. But so far, that's what it looks like. I'm using Ida fabric. I don't feel like I want to stitch on linen. Maybe that will change, you know, to make pillow covers or maybe to embellish clothes. But so far, what I like about cross stitch is the pixel art kind of vibe to it, you know? So I should actually roll it the other way. So I really like that it's on like a really thick squared fabric like Ida. So yeah, maybe it has to do with the fact that I've been playing Stardew Valley and so I'm all pixel lately. Yeah. That's all I've been making in the past couple of weeks, and I feel like I need to finish some of the big projects. I really do. So we can jump on the last segment of this podcast. So that wobbly segment now has a name. The read and see part of my podcast will come along from time to time, and it will be about books or movies, series that I have been reading or watching. So I started knitting my Zweig, and I thought I would take the opportunity to reread my favorite short story by Stefan Zweig. I have read them a long time ago, so yeah, I kind of felt like taking this opportunity. They're really short anyway, and yeah, just make it a little bit more of a significant thing that the pattern is called like this. And the first one I have been rereading is, so it's the Royal Game. In French it's Le Joueur d'échecs. I think it's just, no, I'm not going to try to say the original German title. But yes, it's actually the last, well, something he wrote just before disappearing. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's really funny because it looks so casual when you first read it. So the main character happens to be on a boat where he meets two persons. One is the world's champion of chess, and the other one will come up and reveal himself to be very good, somehow very good at chess too, and he will tell his story, and it's complicated. Basically everything revolves around chess as an accessory to express one's mental capacity, and how you deal with that, how you get it, how you deal with that, and the implications of what mind games can have. And it's really funny because it does feel really casual, the story, when you watch it. despite the really deep historic and psychological implications of the second character, Mr. B, who tells the story of being imprisoned under the Nazi regime in Austria. And yeah, I find it interesting how you have all these undergoing really deep, really dark, worrying mood, but actually the story itself cuts quite short and is has a casual feeling to it, and it's a really good balance. And if you have never read anything by Zweig, I think it's a good way of knowing if you will enjoy it. It's not really representative of his whole work. I feel Zweig's work is very disparate, is that a word in English? It's very wide. But this is a nice thing to read. It goes really quickly. If you can read German, just read the original one. So I had to repurchase the book because I can't find the edition I had before, and I can't remember if it was the same translation. But oh dear. Yeah, it makes me sad that I don't read German. I guess it's the one thing, like, it's the one really popular language that I cannot read. I can read English, French and Spanish, so that covers a nice thing. But I can't read German. And a lot of people can know German, can read German and translate German. And I feel like when you have a lot of translations option, you often end up with not so great quality. Whereas, for example, if you look at Murakami's work, there's a few translators that translate Japanese to French, and they're doing a very good job. But yeah, I guess when it's a more common language, it's not that Japanese isn't common, it's becoming more and more, but you know what I mean, not as widely learned as German yet. Not in the translation word in France anyway. Yeah, I feel like when it's a more common language, you are more likely to get a who cares translation. Happens with classics a lot as well. And yeah, it's just, no. I don't know the original text. It's just, well, I've seen excerpts and I've looked at the word by word thing, and there's something that bothers me in the writing, is that from the very first pages in the French translation, you have the genre of the registre, the level of vocabulary is not consistent. It's not going to be slang, but it's still going to be something that a word that sounds very casual, put in a situation in the middle of a sentence, which is a little bit more, fancy like. And it's just, and I've considered, okay, is that a real thing? Is that how Zweig writes? And it doesn't seem to be. So, but it does the job, and I should just learn German instead of complaining. But that's a lot of languages to learn. I mean, yeah, if I ever have to learn every language of every author that I want to read, yeah, I don't think I'll ever be done in 1,000 lives. And translation job is hard and is valuable, and nothing makes me happier than when I see a French translation that is brilliant and that makes the work shine and accessible to me, to my fellow country people. And I guess it's the same thing when anything gets translated into English, which I hope it does. But yeah, I'm thinking of a Catalan author that I really like, which is Miquel de Palol, who wrote a masterpiece, and it's in Catalan, so I wouldn't have been able to read it. So I'm very pleased that a French editor found a genius translator to do it, and very happy as well that there's one Estonian specialist somewhere in Paris that translated The Man Who Speaks Snake Tongues and November Gooseberries. I'm not sure if that's the proper English title, but Andrus Kirvak's work. Anyway, an Estonian author that I really like, and I'm really pleased that we have an amazing specialist that translated his work. But yeah, these pieces of greatness just makes it a little bit more when you have a casual translation. But yeah, I still recommend that you get it. Maybe the English translation does a better job. In spite of it, it still gets the point and gets the mood of the story to you. So yeah. And that's it for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. We have 600 subscribers, which is great, and so many, and thank you so much for subscribing and liking and putting so many nice comments. Yeah, it really makes me happy when you do that, when I can engage with you. And yes, we are back to a regular weekly schedule, so yeah, I expect this to be one big episode, but don't worry, next week is going to be back to normal with little progress, maybe a better mood knitting wise. I wish you a happy day, night and week, and I will see you next time. Bye!